Hey guys, welcome back. I've got Sam Smith and Henry Toraño. We are still talking about the 2019 games today. If you hear a baby in the background, that's Henry's baby, just because he's on baby duty right now, but we'll have some fun with it if we do hear it. But what I want to talk to these guys a little bit about is what types of conversations they had together. And then stemming off of that, what are some of the big pieces that, walking away from the games this year, they knew that they needed to kind of write down, get to their athletes and have conversations with people about. So, Sam, I want to ask you the first question is, when you were on the ground in Madison, what were some of the things that you were talking to either Henry or other coaches about in relation to the games this year?
That's a good point to that in relation to the games, but something that was interesting that I know we both chatted about briefly was just watching how athletes, I won't say warmed up or did work before the games, because even Tuesday and Wednesday, the days leading up to the games, it was just fascinating to watch what people were doing like the day before the biggest weekend of their lives for that year at least.
What are some examples?
Like just doing maybe too heavy of lifting or too intensive of work. Now, granted, these are my biases from where I come from, and it would just seem very counterintuitive with a lot of the things people were doing right before the event. Now, granted, again, it's like my bias. So does that make it right or wrong? I don't know.
I love that you're not going to name names either. You know exactly what you're thinking about. I get it. I won't pry on that, but
yeah.
So
but it was.
I'll confirm that. Like you'd see people grinding out squats and missing snatches, and just having at it. It just looked like a bad training session. Honestly, that's what kind of brought the conversation about.
Why? Just for everybody listening, because I'm sure a lot of people have done that before. Why do you think that's a bad idea for people to do that before the games?
I think the biggest is just confidence. If you're missing lifts a couple days before, the biggest competition of your life, you want confidence to be high, and the last thing you want to do is be getting sloppy or running the system down or just creating these memories of 48 hours before you're going to compete of like, starting to question, am I good? Can I do this? Normally I can lift that. You don't want to get into that area, like the hay's in the barn, feel good, feel ready, and then, let it roll. So that's how I saw it. Was like, why would you potentially challenge all of the confidence you've created in the last couple months with a couple bad training sessions days before the competition? So that was what I was thinking.
Would you worry about burning the CNS as well? Or
yeah, okay. Definitely. Which is like what Henry was saying, missing lifts or grinding reps. It was just like, why would you, and that could just be an unconscious thing. Like they just don't know. And again, does that make it right or wrong? I don't know. But, like our bias and how we approach things, it just wasn't a prudent choice 48 hours before the competition.
So Henry, what were some of the things that you were having conversations about outside of, let's call it the warm up or the prep strategy for some of these athletes?
A lot of wondering. Honestly, mainly, when will the announcement come? It used to come at the athlete dinner. It didn't. We thought we'd hear it the morning after the athlete dinner when they did the athlete briefing or whatever. It didn't. So that kind of left a lot of just wondering and not really know what's coming up. Not much to talk about because of that.
Yeah, how much? Like, if you could put a number to it, like 0 to 100%, how much stress did that add to an athlete? Like, did it add a lot or?
To my guy and that particular avatar, like national champion, once in a lifetime type thing, it added a lot of stress. Now, granted, because of, the person that he is and his essence and his personality, it didn't look like way. He's not a guy that you'll see too affected by stress. But if you know him well enough and you saw his behavior compared to what it usually is, it was there. Like he wanted to go to bed that night, being able to think about, what we're going to do tomorrow.
Gotcha. So when you guys are thinking about your particular athletes, and there's a lot of uncertainty about what the events are, about what all these cuts are going to be or not going to be. What worked well for you guys or for your athletes to work through that confusion? I mean, what was working well to get them most prepared for each event?
Yeah. In my case, it was just repeating. Like, we did all this work, and for better or worse, it's all done. This is what we showed up with. I think you're fit. You have consistently told me that you feel fit. Just kind of let it go. Don't overthink it, and just let it appear, and trust that you'll have the tools to respond and do a good job.
How about for you, Sam? What were some of the things that were working well?
When I saw that type of layout, what it triggered in my brain was like, okay, we have to be very present on like this one event. Not that you shouldn't be that way with everything else or all, in other competitions, but it put a premium on, I have to focus intently on this one event because this is all I have right now. There's nothing else guaranteed. So for them, I had to ensure they were on that same wavelength with strategy and execution on the event, to where, all right, here's the event. These are the things you need to focus on and we need to execute on. And let's just really commit to that and not worry about, Sarah Sigmund's daughter next to you, or, Tia Toomey pulling ahead of you. Like, don't just let's stay right here. And that was really helpful. And at least I saw that with both of them, that even, all those events were not necessarily in their wheelhouse, but they executed really well, and they performed as well as they could on all of them. And I was really proud of that. So I felt an A+ performance for both of them with their execution and plan on all the events.
What were some of the things that you guys thought didn't go well? What didn't go well for you or your athletes? Or was it just 100%?
Well, I mean, it was a fairly short event for my guy. But really, here we go. But I'll finish up on this real quick. So, when we saw the event, we were actually happy about it. I was relieved to see a CrossFit piece and not a triathlon come up. He was pumped about the components of what he could do. We didn't account for how soft that padding below the rope would be. And that was a big surprise for him. Like, holy shit, I can't jump and hold on to the rope. Like, that's out of the equation. I literally need to start basically from a sinking spot up to that. And I know that's something that kind of got in his head in the first round. Like, he was like, oh shit.
I remember in 2015, I remember trying to jump from one of those pads. I was like, oh no, right when I tried to come up off of it. That's a really good point. How about for you, Sam? What was your goal?
Well, if Nich and Colleen, they're both very strong for their divisions, and they're great at grinding. They're great at odd object strength. They're great at light, low complexity work. But when you give them really high skilled gymnastics and really long extended endurance work, they're not elite. They're good, but they start to fall a little. So those first 6 events, which were the 6 before they had the cut to the 10, were heavily gymnastic bias and running bias. And again, that's not I'm not dogging that, because the test is the test. But had it been more well-rounded, I think it would have obviously shifted the leaderboard more, and it would have given both of them a better chance to express their fitness. So I just felt bad for them that they didn't really get to show all the work they'd done, because there was so much emphasis on this one area that they had gotten better at, and they showed that, but it made it look like they weren't that competent at it, because it was just, they're going up against people a third their size. So
it sounds like you guys are both saying that your athletes were nice and prepared. They were focused. Things were good, and that they had to deal with the type of competition that came out. How do you? And this is just general now. How do you help your athletes over this next year to get prepared for what that's going to look and feel like? And let's not just talk Colleen, Nich, or a national champion. Let's talk about just an athlete in general. How do they prepare for that over the next, let's call it 9 months to a year?
Yeah. Go for it, Henry.
I wouldn't change much in the type of training or what I did to get there. I still think that my guy was, he was fit coming in. Obviously, there's room for improvement. I think the big piece as far as like all of those unexpecteds is expecting a lot of unexpected stuff to come in. And, just knowing that we're not going to know anything until the day of or the morning of. They didn't announce anything in advance really for more than a couple hours. And just knowing that it's going to be that way, I think that's going to be a huge leg up in the next experience. Hopefully we get a chance to go back. The only thing that occurs to me to actually work on that would be to prepare for that a couple weekends out of the year and just say like, yeah, dude, I have your workout, but you're not going to see it. I'll post it in the morning. Yeah. And just have that come up. Of course, it's not the same thing when it's still your gym, wake up in your bed and you're not going against anybody, but it's something that will pull you out of the comfort zone of being able to see your program 7 days ahead.
We're gonna kidnap you 2 a.m., put you into a forest, and then we'll give you the workout right then and there. That'd be good. Yeah, exactly, right. Sam, what about for you? What are some of the things that's in your mind for? Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I've got these athletes prepared.
Yeah, I think for both of them, the thing that they've had to continue getting better at, regardless of what happened the first week of August, was improved extended endurance, improved muscle endurance in their upper body, and relative strength. So those are always like focal points in their training. And then this game's layout just highlighted how valuable those areas are for the sport at the present moment, because your perception, or not your perception, your perspective of the games is always based upon the previous year. So it's like, what was the last year like? Okay, it looked like this. You can obviously, which I think we talked about before, you can look back at the last 5 or 6 years and you can create this layout of what the games might be. But then now you add this guy in and it's like, whoa, okay, that's a lot different than it has been. So maybe I need to look at things a little differently, which for me, it didn't really change much because I knew they still needed to run more. I know they need to do more gymnastics. They potentially need to get a few pounds lighter over the year, and not necessarily through diet manipulation, but just the training volume they do kind of helps keep their system on the lighter end. So it doesn't change much. I just probably will watch certain metrics more closely throughout the year. Like for Nich, a 5K run, or Colleen a 5K run, or specific gymnastic metric that I want to watch to make sure it's trending in the right direction. So it just probably changes what I pay more attention to, I guess you could say.
Do you guys think that there was, and this is for the entire field, do you think that there was any difference between starting on a Wednesday and either having an off Thursday or a very light Thursday as compared to starting Thursday and just amping up more and more through the weekend?
Yeah, well, I don't think that would have been doable with the amount of athletes that they had there this year. Like just dragging it along even further, I just think it would have been a logistics nightmare. Man, I think we did really good training volume. I think we accumulated a good amount of work in 3-day stretches. So. And I remember Matt Frazier said this after one of these events, I'm sore. We all are. We're a little tired, but, when it's time to go, you just go. And that's what we train for, and we do it. So, I don't think that's as much of an issue when you're in there. I don't think it's as much as it may seem when you're not used to it and you're not feeling, that adrenaline. These guys are in shape.
Yeah. So if you guys were going to leave everybody listening with one thought that would be on the whiteboard for the next 365 days, what would that thought be in this present moment? Ooh, there's a tough one.
No, it's actually fairly easy for me because I've been thinking about this lately. You know, if games is the goal, we're going to run a whole lot more, as in, you know, you need to understand what you can do in a 60-minute run. You need to understand what you can do in a 10K, in a 5K, for 800s, for 400s, to be able to, you know, put a better number or feel on pacing. I know it's just one games, but, you know, with 150 athletes coming in, it's much easier to run than to put, you know, 150 concept 2 rowers out on the field, or 75 or whatever it is. And we do that for every other machine, which is just not a factor up until now, where, you know, we thought it was better to keep these high-powered athletes from running all that much because they could hurt themselves more than you know, the benefit it could bring them. But they need to become runners, in my opinion.
Got you. Good answer. Good thought. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I definitely second that. But just to add like variety to it, I would say, you know, like a question mark, like how good are you with your body and your body weight? Like you need to be, as the years go on, it looks as if that's more of value than, you know, anything else. It's like you have to be, you know, elite with your body weight and doing movements and variations of that for minutes on end. So, you know, if you can't do 100 chest to bar in under 4 minutes as a male, and potentially as a female, like that could be a KPI you're missing out on to reach the pinnacle of the sport. So, you know, gymnastics is definitely important in this sport.
Metrics roll with the punches, huh? Cool.
Yeah.
Guys, I really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to doing these a lot more, but thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
All right.